Zara had always enjoyed the peaceful rhythm of her village. The small houses, the dusty roads, the laughter of children playing near the wells, and the gentle sound of chickens clucking in the yards gave her a sense of comfort she could not imagine leaving. Her days were simple yet full. She spent her mornings helping her mother prepare small meals and tend to the garden, her afternoons walking to the market or chatting with friends, and her evenings resting under the shade of the large baobab tree near their home. Zara loved the simplicity of her life and the warmth of her neighbors. Everyone in the village knew each other, and the sense of community made her feel safe and happy. One bright morning, Zara was sweeping the small front porch of her home when she noticed something unusual. Across the road, a moving truck had arrived at the house next door. Boxes were being carried in, furniture was being unpacked, and a man was directing the movers with a confident voice. Zara tilted her head, curious. She had never seen anyone new move into their street before, and she felt a mixture of excitement and caution. The man overseeing the move was tall and broad-shouldered. His skin was dark, smooth, and his eyes were sharp, almost too sharp for Zara's comfort. Yet there was a smile on his face, a polite, welcoming smile that made him seem friendly at first glance. He greeted the movers kindly, thanked them for their help, and even carried a few lighter boxes himself, showing strength without arrogance. Zara watched quietly, her hands pausing in their work. She had never met him, yet she already felt a strange mix of curiosity and unease. Later that day, when Zara went to the market to buy some fresh vegetables, she noticed her neighbors speaking about the new man. "Have you met Kalu yet?" one woman asked another. "He moved in just this morning. He seems polite and hardworking. A good neighbor, they say." Zara smiled politely at the mention of his name, though her stomach twisted slightly. Something about him unsettled her, but she could not tell what it was. Perhaps it was just the unfamiliarity of a new person in their village, or maybe it was the intensity she had glimpsed in his eyes. Still, she reminded herself to stay polite and open-minded. After all, her mother always told her that welcoming new neighbors was a sign of respect and kindness. When Zara returned home, she found Kalu standing near the gate of his house. He waved at her with a friendly grin. "Hello. You must be Zara, right?" "I'm Kalu, your new neighbor," he said, his voice smooth and confident. Zara smiled back, feeling slightly nervous. "Yes, I'm Zara. Welcome to our village," she replied softly. She noticed the way he looked at her, the intensity in his gaze, but she tried to ignore it. Kalu stepped closer, carrying a small basket of freshly picked fruits. "I thought I would introduce myself properly. I brought a few things for you and your family," he said. Zara's eyes widened slightly. It was a kind gesture and she appreciated it, though part of her remained cautious. "Thank you, that's very thoughtful of you," she said, taking the basket. Over the next few days, Kalu continued to show his friendly nature. He helped elderly neighbors carry heavy sacks of grain, repaired fences for those who could not afford a carpenter, and even offered to help at the market by lifting heavy baskets for the sellers. Everyone spoke well of him. "He is so kind and helpful," one neighbor said. "We are lucky to have him here." Zara noticed this too. He seemed genuinely good at first glance, and many villagers trusted him quickly. Despite his friendly actions, Zara could not shake the feeling of unease she experienced whenever she looked into his eyes. There was something in his gaze that felt too sharp, too focused, as if he were watching more than just her movements. He seemed to notice everything she did, almost as if he were studying her. Zara tried to tell herself she was imagining things, that perhaps it was just her imagination making her nervous. Yet the feeling lingered. One afternoon, Zara's friend, Bayo, came to visit. They sat under the baobab tree, sharing stories and laughing quietly. Bayo mentioned Kalu's recent help at the market. "He's really nice, isn't he?" Bayo said. "I saw him helping Mrs. Igioma carry her yams. I think he's going to be a good neighbor." Zara nodded, but she did not speak immediately. She wondered if anyone else noticed the way Kalu's gaze lingered on her or the way he seemed to watch everyone with intense attention. "I don't know," Zara finally said. "He seems kind, but I feel a little uneasy. I can't explain why. Something about him. I just don't feel completely comfortable." Bayo shrugged. "Maybe you're just being cautious. He's new here and that can feel strange. Give him some time." Zara wanted to believe that, and she tried to focus on the positive things he had done, reminding herself of the basket of fruits he had given her and the neighbors he had helped. As days passed, Kalu continued his acts of helpfulness. He greeted Zara every morning with a polite bow and a warm smile. "Good morning, Zara. How is your day starting?" he would ask. She answered politely, noticing again the intensity in his gaze. Every question he asked seemed simple, but it carried an undercurrent that made her stomach twist. He asked about her family, her friends, and even the paths she took when walking to the market. Zara laughed nervously and deflected the questions, but she noticed how quickly he insisted on answers. Her mother, Adana, noticed the unease in Zara's behavior. "Zara, you seem worried about our new neighbor," she said one evening as they prepared dinner. Zara nodded slowly. "Mother, he seems nice, but something about him feels strange. I can't explain it." Adana smiled gently, placing a hand on her daughter's shoulder. "Sometimes people can seem very kind, yet give us a strange feeling. Trust your instincts, my child. Being polite is good, but always pay attention to your feelings." Zara took her mother's advice to heart. She remained polite and welcoming, but she started observing Kalu more closely. She noticed small things that had seemed unimportant before. The way he smiled at everyone but sometimes looked too intently, the way he helped neighbors but seemed to expect their attention in return, and the way he asked personal questions under the guise of friendliness. One morning, as Zara watered her small garden, Kalu walked past the fence. "Good morning, Zara. The garden looks lovely. You must be very skilled," he said. Zara smiled politely. "Thank you. I enjoy tending it." Kalu leaned closer, his eyes studying her carefully. "Do you often come here alone? And your friends, do they visit you often?" Zara felt a twinge of discomfort. His questions seemed harmless, but there was a precision in them that made her uneasy. She nodded cautiously. "Yes, I come here alone sometimes and my friends visit in the afternoons." Kalu smiled, but it was not the same friendly smile. It was measured, almost calculating. That evening, Zara sat by the window watching Kalu move about his yard. He waved to neighbors, helped lift baskets, and smiled at passers-by. On the surface, everything seemed perfect. Yet, Zara could not shake the feeling that there was more to him than met the eye. She felt the tension in her chest, a warning she could not ignore. After the terrifying evening when Kalu became aggressive, Zara knew she could not wait any longer. The moment he had shouted, broken the chair, and threatened her safety had confirmed all her fears. The charming, polite neighbor she had once trusted was dangerous. Fear gripped her heart, but clarity followed immediately. She understood that her safety was paramount, and she needed help right away. Zara quickly grabbed her phone, her hands shaking slightly, and dialed her brother, Daipo. Her voice was urgent but controlled. "Daipo, please come quickly. Kalu is threatening me. He's aggressive and I don't know what to do." Daipo, hearing the panic in her voice, didn't hesitate. "Stay calm, Zara. Lock the doors. I'm coming with some friends. Don't let him near you," he said firmly. While waiting for her brother, Zara moved cautiously around her home, checking every door and window to ensure they were locked. She realized that she could not leave the house alone. Her safety depended on the support of trusted family and friends. She glanced at the basket of fruits Kalu had left earlier, which now seemed like a cruel mockery of his manipulative control. Everything he had done to appear kind and helpful was now a reminder of how dangerous he really was. Within a few minutes, Daipo arrived with two close friends, Ade and Kem. They approached the house carefully, shouting to Kalu to keep his distance. "Leave her alone," Daipo called. "Step away now or we will call the authorities." Their arrival seemed to startle Kalu. The calm, controlled aggressor now hesitated, clearly not expecting intervention so quickly. His eyes darted from Zara to the group and his jaw tightened. Zara felt a surge of relief. She realized how close she had come to serious danger, and she knew that immediate action had saved her. With the support of her brother and friends, she stepped outside cautiously. Daipo and the others flanked her, ready to protect her if needed. Kalu did not advance further, muttering under his breath, but the intimidation he had wielded was broken. Once safely away from Kalu, Zara explained everything to Daipo and the friends in detail. She recounted the manipulations, the controlling behavior, the aggressive outburst, and the intimidation. "He seemed so friendly at first," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "But over time I realized he wanted control. And last night, I knew I could not stay quiet anymore." Daipo listened intently, nodding. "I am glad you trusted your instincts, Zara. You acted wisely. Now we must report this to the authorities to ensure he cannot harm you or anyone else." Together, they went to the local authorities and gave a full account of Kalu's behavior. The officials promised to investigate, keep watch over him and take measures to ensure Zara's safety. In the days that followed, Zara began to recover emotionally from the experience. The fear she had felt that night slowly eased, replaced by a sense of empowerment. She realized that recognizing danger, trusting her instincts, and seeking help immediately had been crucial to protecting herself. She also understood the importance of having a support system, family, friends, and authorities, to ensure her safety in times of crisis. Zara shared her story with her mother, Adana, and her friends, Saad and Bayo. She spoke openly about the manipulation, the controlling behavior, and the aggression, emphasizing how subtle Kalu's moves had been at first. People like him can seem kind and charming, she explained. They help, they smile, they carry baskets, but it's all a mask. You have to trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Her story quickly spread through the village. Neighbors who had once admired Kalu's helpfulness and politeness now understood the truth behind his charm. They recognized the signs of manipulation, control, and hidden aggression that Zara had described. Villagers began to discuss the importance of trusting their feelings and instincts when interacting with new people. Zara also took the opportunity to educate the younger members of the village. She spoke to friends, cousins, and classmates about recognizing danger, maintaining boundaries, and seeking help when someone's behavior seems controlling or aggressive. She emphasized that charm and politeness are not always signs of trustworthiness and that personal safety must always come first. Over time, Zara's confidence grew. She continued her daily routines, walking to the market, visiting friends, and helping her mother in the garden, but she did so with heightened awareness. She paid close attention to the behavior of others, especially new people in the village, while maintaining her polite and friendly demeanor. Her experience with Kalu had taught her the importance of balancing caution with kindness, awareness with trust. Zara also became more vigilant about her surroundings. She noted patterns in behavior, subtle gestures, and inconsistencies in what people said and did. She learned to read signs of potential danger early before they escalated, and to act immediately if she felt threatened. This vigilance did not make her fearful. Rather, it empowered her to live safely and independently. The village authorities continued to monitor Kalu, ensuring he could not harm Zara or anyone else. Over time, his influence diminished and he no longer posed a direct threat. Zara observed him cautiously but without fear, knowing that the support of her family, friends, and the community provided protection. She realized that danger could be managed with awareness, preparation, and timely action. Zara's experience left a lasting impression on the village. Her courage in standing up to Kalu, recognizing the danger, and seeking help inspired others. Villagers began to speak openly about the need to trust their instincts and support one another when someone faced threats. The community became more vigilant, more aware, and more protective of one another, creating a safer environment for everyone. Zara herself grew stronger. She realized that surviving a threatening situation was not just about escape but also about learning important lessons. She learned to recognize manipulative behavior, to trust her intuition, and to rely on the support of those she trusted. She learned that being polite does not mean ignoring danger, and that safety and independence must always come first. In the following weeks, Zara continued to live her life, slowly returning to a sense of normalcy. She spent time with her mother, visited friends, and resumed her activities in the village. But she carried with her the lessons she had learned. She remained cautious around new people, observant of behavior, and aware of her surroundings. She also became an advocate for safety, sharing her knowledge with others to prevent similar situations. One afternoon, as Zara and Saad sat under the baobab tree, Zara reflected on the ordeal. "I never thought someone could seem so kind and then turn so dangerous," she said quietly. "It was a frightening experience, but I learned so much about trusting my instincts and protecting myself." Saad nodded. "Your story is a lesson for all of us. Charm can hide danger, and we must always be aware of our feelings and the behavior of those around us. You acted wisely, Zara. You showed courage and intelligence." Zara's unease about Kalu had grown steadily over the past few weeks. She had noticed the subtle signs of jealousy and possessiveness, the intensity in his gaze whenever she spoke to friends, and the way he asked personal questions under the guise of friendliness. At first, she tried to ignore it, thinking maybe she was overreacting. But over time, his behavior escalated, and Zara began to realize that his charm was only a mask for something more controlling. One morning, Zara was sweeping the small front yard of her home when she noticed Kalu walking slowly toward her gate. He waved and smiled, carrying a small basket of fruits. "Good morning, Zara," he called. She smiled politely and nodded. "Good morning, Kalu." But then he surprised her. "I noticed you were planning to meet your friends today. Are you going to see them alone?" His tone was calm, almost casual, but there was a sharpness beneath it that made Zara's stomach tighten. Zara hesitated. "Yes. I was thinking of visiting Saad," she replied carefully. Kalu's eyes narrowed slightly. You should be careful about the time you spend with friends. Not everyone has good intentions. And sometimes being alone can be dangerous. Zara tried to laugh it off, but the unease in her chest was growing. I can take care of myself, she said softly. Kalu tilted his head, studying her. I know you can, but I want to help you stay safe. Trust me, he said. Zara felt a chill run down her spine. His words sounded protective, but the way he said them made her feel trapped. He was trying to control her movements, making her feel guilty for spending time as she wished. Over the next few days, Kalu's visits became more frequent. He would show up unexpectedly, sometimes when she was alone, sometimes when she was with her friends. Each time he asked questions that seemed casual but were really meant to control her actions. Are you really going to the market with them? He would ask. Do you trust them completely? His tone was always polite, but Zara could feel the pressure building. At first, Zara tried to rationalize his behavior. Maybe he's just worried, she thought. Maybe he wants to make sure I'm safe. But soon she realized that his concern was not genuine, it was a tool to manipulate her. He made her feel guilty when she wanted to spend time with friends, subtly suggesting that she owed him her attention or loyalty. One afternoon, Zara was preparing to visit Saad. She gathered her things quietly, trying not to attract attention. But Kalu appeared at her gate, leaning casually against the fence. Going out? He asked. Zara nodded, trying to remain polite. Yes, just visiting a friend. Kalu's expression darkened slightly. I think you should reconsider. It's not safe to go alone. And I would rather you spend time with people I know are safe for you. Zara felt her chest tighten. She realized that Kalu was not concerned about her safety. He wanted to control who she could see, where she could go, and how she spent her time. His charm and friendliness had transformed into a subtle form of manipulation, and she could no longer ignore it. That evening, Zara spoke with her mother, Adana, in hushed tones. Mother, I think he's trying to control me, she admitted, her voice trembling slightly. He tells me who I can see, what I should do, and even makes me feel guilty for spending time with friends. I don't know what to do. Adana placed a comforting hand on her daughter's shoulder. Zara, I was afraid this might happen. Some people hide control behind kindness. Trust your instincts. Be polite, but never let him manipulate you or make you feel trapped. You have the right to your own freedom. Determined to protect herself, Zara began observing Kalu's behavior more closely. She noticed the subtle ways he tried to assert control, how he appeared just as she stepped out the gate, how he asked questions about her friends' conversations, how he reacted when she did not answer fully. Every action was calculated to make her dependent on him emotionally. One afternoon, Zara's friend Saad joined her while she prepared vegetables for the market. I noticed Kalu following you again today, Saad whispered. He's trying to control you. You need to set boundaries, Zara, or he will keep pushing further. Zara nodded. I know. I can't let him manipulate me even if he pretends to be kind. Over the next few days, Zara tested her boundaries. She refused to answer some of Kalu's questions, walked with friends instead of alone, and avoided giving him information about her daily activities. Each time she did, she noticed his polite smile falter for a moment, replaced by a subtle tension that made her uneasy. It was clear to her now that his charm was only a facade, and his true intention was control. Kalu also began using emotional tactics to pressure her. When Zara declined to meet him or share information, he would sigh deeply, shake his head and say things like, I only want what's best for you. Don't you trust me? The words sounded caring on the surface, but Zara recognized them as manipulation. He was trying to make her feel guilty for asserting her independence. One evening, Zara returned home after visiting a friend. Kalu appeared at her gate, carrying a small basket of food. I thought you might be hungry, he said with a smile. It's just a little gift from me. Zara accepted it politely but kept her distance. Thank you, she said softly. Inside she felt a mix of fear and anger. His generosity was another way to bind her emotionally, making her feel obligated to him. The days continued in this pattern. Kalu's visits, questions and subtle pressures made Zara feel trapped. She realized she could no longer treat him as just a polite neighbor. He was a man who wanted control over her life. She began confiding in her friends and mother more often, sharing every detail of his behavior and discussing strategies to protect herself. Zara also learned to observe Kalu's patterns. She noticed that he often appeared when she was alone, asked seemingly casual questions with hidden motives, and subtly criticized her choices to make her doubt herself. The friendly man everyone admired in the village was not who he seemed. He was controlling, manipulative, and calculated in his actions. One afternoon, Saad suggested a small test. Next time he asks something personal, don't answer. Watch his reaction. You need to understand his limits, she said. Zara agreed. The next morning, when Kalu appeared and asked about her plans for the day, she simply smiled politely and walked past without responding. Kalu's smile tightened slightly, and he lingered at the gate longer than usual, watching her leave. Zara felt a small sense of empowerment, realizing she could assert her independence without confrontation. As the week progressed, Zara continued to maintain her boundaries. She walked with friends, answered only necessary questions, and avoided being alone with Kalu whenever possible. She began noticing the ways he tried to manipulate others too, praising them excessively or giving gifts to gain loyalty. It became clear that his behavior was not random, it was part of a pattern of control. Zara also strengthened her support network. She spent more time with her mother, Adana, and her closest friends, discussing plans, sharing observations, and preparing for any escalation. She realized that staying alert, observing behavior, and maintaining boundaries were essential to protecting herself from Kalu's controlling nature. One evening, as the sun set over the village, Zara reflected on the past few weeks. She had learned that charm and friendliness could hide manipulative intentions. Kalu's polite demeanor and helpful gestures were only a mask for control and pressure. She understood now that she needed to remain vigilant, trust her instincts, and never allow him to dictate her actions. From that day on, Zara moved with caution. She was polite when necessary but always kept her distance. She answered questions minimally, refused to share personal information, and avoided being alone near Kalu. She observed him carefully, noting every subtle sign of control, every calculated move, and every attempt to manipulate her emotions. The more she observed, the more she realized how dangerous the situation could become if she ignored the signs. Kalu's charm had initially disarmed her and the villagers, but Zara's instincts now guided her actions. She knew she had to remain strong, assert her boundaries, and rely on her friends and family for support. By the end of the week, Zara had developed a strategy. She would continue to be polite and respectful, but she would never allow Kalu to control her life. She would trust her instincts, maintain her independence, and stay alert to any escalation in his behavior. The friendly neighbor everyone admired had revealed his true side: manipulative, controlling, and dangerous. Zara understood that this was only the beginning. She had recognized his intentions, established boundaries, and prepared herself mentally, but she knew she must remain vigilant. Kalu's moves were calculated, and she had to be careful not to fall into his manipulative traps. That night, as she lay on her mat, Zara felt a mixture of fear, resolve, and clarity. She knew Kalu wanted control, but she had learned the importance of setting limits, trusting her instincts, and relying on her support network. She promised herself that she would never let charm or gifts blind her judgment again. Zara had spent weeks trying to maintain a polite distance from Kalu, carefully observing his behavior, establishing boundaries, and confiding in her friends and mother about his controlling moves. She knew now that he was manipulative and dangerous, but she hoped that if she stayed cautious and avoided confrontation, he might not escalate further. Unfortunately, that hope would soon be tested. One evening, as the sun began to dip behind the distant hills, Zara was finishing her chores in the small yard in front of her home. She had just washed the dishes and was arranging them neatly to dry when she saw Kalu approaching. At first, he smiled his usual polite smile, carrying a small basket of fruits. "Good evening, Zara," he said. She replied politely, "Good evening, Kalu." But this time the smile did not reach his eyes. There was a tension in his movements, a rigidness in his posture that made Zara's stomach churn. "I noticed you didn't respond to my questions earlier," he said, his voice calm but sharp. "You need to trust me. Why are you being distant?" Zara took a deep breath, trying to remain composed. She had anticipated moments like this. "Kalu," she said gently, "I have the right to make my own choices. I can spend time with my friends, answer questions when I want, and decide what is best for me. You cannot control me." Kalu's eyes darkened, and a flash of anger crossed his face. He took a step closer. "You think you can just ignore me? You think you can do whatever you want without consequences?" His voice rose slightly, and Zara felt a chill run through her body. She had never heard him speak like this before. Zara's heart pounded. She realized that the man she had once considered a friendly neighbor was now showing his true colors. The charming, helpful man was gone, replaced by someone threatening and dangerous. Her instincts screamed at her to get away, but she tried to stay calm. "You cannot treat me this way," Zara said firmly, trying to maintain her composure. I have respected you, but I will not be threatened. Leave my home. Kalu's expression twisted with rage. He shouted loudly, startling a few neighbors who were nearby. You will do as I say, he yelled. His hands clenched into fists and he moved toward the small wooden chair in the yard. With a sudden movement, he picked it up and threw it across the yard, the wood crashing against the fence with a loud splintering sound. Zara froze in fear. Her heart raced, her palms were sweaty and her legs trembled. The situation had escalated far beyond anything she had imagined. The man she had trusted, the neighbor who had smiled politely and helped carry groceries, was now openly aggressive. She realized with a deep pang of fear that her life could be in danger if she did not act quickly. She stepped back cautiously, keeping her eyes on Kalu. Please, Kalu, calm down, she said softly, hoping to de-escalate the situation. But Kalu's anger seemed to feed on itself. You will listen to me. You will obey me, he shouted again, his voice echoing across the village street. Zara knew words alone would not stop him. She needed help and she needed to get out safely. She turned slightly, trying to reach her phone, which lay on the small table near the door. Kalu noticed immediately and moved toward it, his eyes narrowing. Trying to call someone? You think you can escape me? Zara swallowed hard. She realized she had only one chance to act. She remembered her mother's advice about staying calm, thinking clearly and seeking help when in danger. She moved slowly, pretending to comply while keeping her eyes on him. Kalu, I will talk to you, she said, keeping her voice gentle. Please just calm down. But Kalu was beyond reason. His anger had grown too strong, fueled by the control he believed he had over her. Zara saw the way his hands trembled slightly with rage, the tightness in his jaw and the fury in his eyes. She understood clearly that he would not stop until he got his way, or until someone intervened. In a sudden, calculated moment, Zara decided she could not wait any longer. She backed toward the door, keeping Kalu in her line of sight. I am calling my brother, she said firmly. He will be here soon. The threat of external help seemed to make Kalu hesitate for a moment, his aggressive stance faltering slightly. Using that split second, Zara grabbed the basket of fruits and threw it aside to distract him. She sprinted toward the door, yanking it open and running inside. Kalu lunged toward her, but she managed to slam the door shut just in time. Her heart raced, her breath came in quick gasps, and her body trembled with fear. Inside, she ran to the kitchen and picked up her phone. Her hands shook as she dialed her brother, Daipo, explaining quickly and urgently, Daipo, you must come. Kalu is aggressive. He's threatening me. Please hurry. Her voice trembled with fear but also with determination. While waiting for help, Zara moved cautiously around the house, making sure doors and windows were locked. She could hear Kalu outside, shouting angrily, slamming against the walls and trying to intimidate her. The once charming neighbor had now become a clear threat to her safety, and the fear she felt was both immediate and real. Within minutes, she heard the sound of running footsteps. Daipo had arrived, accompanied by a few trusted neighbors. They shouted at Kalu, warning him to leave immediately. The presence of others seemed to break the intensity of his rage temporarily. Kalu scowled, his anger evident, but he retreated slowly, muttering under his breath. Zara collapsed into her brother's arms, trembling with relief. She realized how close she had come to serious danger and understood the gravity of her situation. The charming, helpful neighbor she had once trusted was now revealed as someone dangerous, manipulative, and aggressive. The incident was a turning point. She could no longer ignore the warning signs or hope he would change. After the immediate threat was over, Zara and Daipo, along with their neighbors, reported Kalu's aggressive behavior to the local authorities. They explained everything, the manipulation, the controlling actions, the threats, and the escalation that had culminated in the broken chair and the shouting incident. The authorities promised to monitor the situation and take steps to ensure Zara's safety. That night, as Zara sat quietly in her home, she reflected on the events. She realized that her instincts had been right all along. The unease she felt when first meeting Kalu, the jealousy, the controlling behavior, and the subtle manipulations were all signs of danger that could no longer be ignored. She promised herself never to underestimate the power of her own instincts again. Zara also recognized the importance of her support network. Her friends, her mother, and her brother had all played a crucial role in helping her respond safely. Without their assistance, she might have been trapped in a much more dangerous situation. She made a mental note to always keep trusted people close and to seek help immediately if someone threatened her safety again. Over the following days, Zara took steps to protect herself further. She avoided being alone, stayed in well-populated areas of the village, and strengthened her bonds with friends and family. She understood that charm and helpful gestures could hide dangerous intentions, and she resolved never to let herself be deceived by appearances again. She also learned to trust her instincts without hesitation. Every small warning she had ignored before now seemed obvious in hindsight: the intensity in Kalu's gaze, the jealousy when she spoke to others, the controlling questions, and the subtle manipulation. She realized that early recognition of these warning signs had allowed her to respond in time and avoid harm. Zara knew that life in the village would continue, but she was no longer naive about the people around her. She had learned a valuable lesson about the difference between charm and threat, kindness and control. She resolved to remain vigilant, cautious, and aware, understanding that her safety depended on both her instincts and the support of those she trusted. By the end of the week, Zara had regained a sense of control over her life. She continued her daily routines but with heightened awareness. Kalu's threat had been real, but she had acted quickly, sought help, and survived. The experience taught her resilience, courage, and the importance of trusting her intuition. Zara reflected on the night of the incident many times afterward. She remembered the broken chair, the shouting, the fear, and the adrenaline that had pushed her to act quickly. She realized that charm could be deceptive, and a polite smile could hide aggression. The man she had once welcomed into her neighborhood was no longer a friendly neighbor in her mind. He was a warning, a reminder to always stay alert. From that night onward, Zara promised herself never to ignore the signs of danger, no matter how charming or polite someone appeared. She also understood that seeking help from family, friends, and authorities was a strength, not a weakness. The experience had taught her that personal safety was paramount and that instincts should never be underestimated. Zara's life gradually returned to normal, but the lesson remained. She continued to interact politely with neighbors but never allowed herself to be alone with someone she distrusted. Her confidence grew as she realized her own ability to recognize danger, respond quickly, and protect herself. The threat from Kalu had changed her perspective forever. She knew now that appearances could be deceiving, and that the friendly exterior of a person could hide dangerous intentions. She became more careful, more observant, and more empowered to protect her life and independence.